Hi, my name is Jolene Underwood. I am an emotional and mental health coach as well as a counselor in training. Today's topic is about validation and the difference between the validation that we get from God about our identity and the power of validation that helps us experience our identity in Christ. I shared recently in like a Facebook post, an Instagram post about an experience that I had where I was in deep pain. And I was sharing honestly what was happening. And the circumstances had a lot of confusion around it. And I felt really confused afterwards. It was just painful. And so when I shared that with a group, one of the responses that I got was, well, come on, if we're truly humble, then we know that our validation comes in Christ alone. And I let that person know as politely but firmly as I could that yes, I appreciate the understanding that our validation comes from Christ, but I wasn't asking for someone to validate my identity. I was asking for them to validate the experience that I had and the reality of that pain and that suffering. And imagine that might be something that you've experienced too. It's unfortunately a very common experience. So one of the things that's kind of been helpful for me, and the things that I had written about is that, yes, our validation in Christ, our identity comes from God because He is the one who created us. He's the one whose image we're fashioned after. He is the one every person's image is fashioned after. And none of us can contain the whole of God. And so each of us has different strengths, different weaknesses, because we can't contain even a full reflection of His character and His goodness. There's so much to who God is, more than we could ever know. And that identity is our understanding of how God uniquely wired us, the gifts and the desires, the weaknesses that we have, and our need for other people. All of that is defined by God. He's the ultimate one who approves of it because He created us. He approves of His creation, what He designed and what He plans to bring into being as we go through this growth process with Him throughout our lives. Validation of our experiences is something that we can do in relationship with one another. And God even does. He recognizes the reality of what is challenging, what is painful, and the validation of the experience is just getting in there with someone and saying, man, I can understand why that would be hard or why you would be angry. It's saying words that connect with where they're at. It does not mean that we automatically agree. And if we don't agree with their assessment of a situation, we can still be present with them in their experience of that situation. We need that from other people, from, say, people who can simply be with us and acknowledge what our experience is. God working in each of our spirits is something that we can't make happen in another person. But when we validate that experience, they have an opportunity to experience God's validation of them in who they are. His Spirit working in them is their primary motivator for change, for growth, for any correction that needs to be made on beliefs that are coming out of it. And that's not to say that you can't ever have conversations about somebody's assessment of something that carries on. But in the moment, when someone is sharing an experience, what they need right then is the gift of presence. And you have that opportunity by simply validating the experience that they have. And so the message that I had shared, just simply put, is when people validate our experiences, we are empowered to receive God's validation of who we are. I hope that will maybe just helps relieve some stress, that anxiety that you might feel when someone else is under distress and they're hurting and you want to fix the situation. You don't have to fix it. But the power of validation is incredible. Just sit with them, understand that what they're experiencing, and just even reiterate, wow, I heard that was very confusing for you, or that you don't know what to do next. Maybe that's what they said, and you would just rephrase that. It's powerful, and it helps us receive God's identity and actually know it for ourselves. Take care, friends, and talk to you next time.